Well, hi, everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime, which means it's time for us to talk about coping with feelings. And I have some pretty strong feelings this week that I wanted to share with you. But first of all, to those of you who might be new here, welcome. Dear Mama Sal is not just me. It's a group of us who get together 3 times a week to talk about coping with our lives in general. On Friday lunchtime, we talk about coping with our feelings. And on Friday evenings, we talk about coping with life, where we're really cooking on a budget. And then on Sunday afternoon, we talk about coping with stress because we all live with it, whether we want to admit it or not. So, a very warm welcome to you all. Hi there, Anamete from Denmark, one of our Denmarkians, as I call them. Yeah, I know it's called Danes, but we've always called them the Denmarkians. And my love to you and to Jesper if he's around. So great to see you. Today, I'm going to be talking about the feelings that I had when I went to go and visit my son Doug. And I say the feelings that I had because I realized in that visit how far that young man has come. And I wanted to just share with you his incredible story. But I do want to tell you that I did ask his permission to do so. And he said that he was fine. And thank me for asking him first. But it is a story that I think a lot of people need to hear because it's important to know dreams do come true, but not necessarily the way you think they're going to. So, my quotes today are all about dreaming the dream. And first quote that I have is: a single dream is more powerful than thousands of realities. All right. If and I always quote the song from the Broadway show South Pacific. And the song was called Happy Talk. And in it, there was a line that stuck with me the whole of my lifetime. And that's: if you don't have a dream, how are you going to have a dream come true? In other words, if you don't have a dream of something, you're not going to have the joy of having that dream come true. And so it's really important in our lives that we have that feeling of hope, that we have that feeling of expectation, that we have that feeling of moving towards something rather than just being stagnant. That doesn't mean that we shouldn't live in the moment, because we should enjoy every single day. There's me going shooting all over the place. But it is it. If you want inner peace, then learn to be happy with today. But that I'm not saying that don't visualize the future, because I believe it's very important to do that. So very warm welcome to you all. I'm going to say that if you haven't done so already, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter, because that's really where we keep in touch with everybody. If we've got something that's going on with somebody that I think you will want to know about, I will post it there. And also now, of course, remember to visit the DearMamaSal.com website. We've got all these beautiful Christmas things starting to go up there. And they're going up now because of the time it takes to make them and get them to people overseas. So just so that if you care to have a look at that, that would be awesome. And I look forward to having you enjoy them as much as I enjoy making them. No matter where you're from, your dreams are valid. And I'm hoping that some of you will be able to tell me what your main feeling of the week was. All right. As I said, I'd have to say that my main feeling of the week was feeling honored. And I know that's an unusual word for me to use, but you will understand more as the story develops. I think it's important to remember that we all have ups and downs. And some people's ups and downs are bigger than others. And the main thing is that you understand neither your ups nor your downs define you. All right. What defines you is who you are through all of that. And that's the point that I really want to make today, that, it is so important that you stay who you are. And, I was thinking about The Field of Dreams, for those of you who watched that movie, where Ray Kinsella, played by Kevin Costner, um, it was walking through a cornfield, and he heard the words, "If you build it, he will come." Now, it's often misquoted, by the way. A lot of the time, the quote that you hear is, if you build it, they will come. The actual quote was, "If you build it, he will come," because it was about Ray Kinsella's father. And it was so incredible that he should have that. Um, it is so interesting to me that we sort of have that one line from a movie, and it's defined a whole group of us that ever watched that. And it's really, really important. I'm sorry, I'm a bit distracted because Jeannie's just coming up with something that made me realize that I have not done something. Jeannie, thank you for reminding me. I actually had it in my notes. I don't know where it is, but just an update on Jeannie. She's saying that after 14 months, she has no kidney stone operation, and had a good report recently. So we're really pleased to hear that. All right. So the whole reason that this came up was that on Tuesday, I uh, was invited by Dougie. And for those of you who don't know, Dougie is one of my sons. A lot of you know about Benji, but who's my son, and by choice. And Dougie is another one. And what I want to be able to do is to just let you know that he went through a tough time recently where he got, uh, you know, a 5-year relationship broke down, and he ended up having to sell the family home. And then, he recently bought again. And what the invitation was to come and have dinner with him and see the new place. And, I quite honestly, I know in my mind, I sort of visualize what sort of place he would have got as a bachelor pad. I mean, he's now sort of a bachelor again. And it was really interesting how I thought about, what that might look like. Um, and luckily, it's still within easy distance for me. It's about half an hour away. And I took him a couple of plants, as you know, I would. By the way, the story about the plants, I'm beginning to be a victim of my own success. Can you see I've now got 2 different peppers growing up that high, and they both started in my little AeroGarden thing here. Um, and I've got them growing hydroponically because I want to see, can I grow them inside and still get peppers off them. But I've also got other things growing madly at the moment. So when I say madly, gladly rather than madly. And it's really important to me that you continue to watch the growth because, it was all a big experiment that I did just with a smile on my face. So here's the thing. If you build it, they will come, or he will come is the correct quote. But if you think about it, what does it mean? It means if you're going to have a dream big. And if you're going to have a dream, go in boots and all, and it's a really important thing to think about. Now, go in boots and all, but understand the risk. And we're going to talk a bit more about that in a second, because in all things that you do outside your comfort zone, there is risk. There is terrible, terrible risk in some cases. And yet, if you look at the long term, if you look at the long-term view, sometimes the risks that you take work out and sometimes they don't. But even if they don't work out, it's amazing what you learn that helps you on the next stage of, when you dust yourself off and start again. And so what I want to make sure you understand is none of these things come easily to anybody. Some of you know that I've been busy, in the craft room, otherwise called Confetti Corner, And the reason I call it confetti corner is because of all the little bits of paper that's everywhere. Uh, and let me hang on a second. The reason I say that is you can imagine just how many little bits of paper there are after I finish cutting out one of these. But I'm getting better at it. So, it's just amazing to me how I have now gone from being totally retired to suddenly back working. It's really weird. And I will talk about that. Um, I'll talk about it more on, I know, isn't it pretty? And if you can imagine it with one of those LED lights. By the way, if you end up with one of these, please make sure you don't put a real candle inside. Put a little LED type candle in it. No flame. It's paper. You know what will happen if you put a real candle in there. And it's Animete. If you go to DearMamaSal.com, it's part of a little village grouping that I've made. All right, so I said that the word I'd like to put today was honored, but the first word I want to say was a feeling of being stunned when I went to see Doug. The reason was I went to his new place, and I knew what I expected, and what I saw when I went there was totally different. He opened up the front door, and my words were literally, "Oh my God." He has bought the most beautiful place, literally stunning. The kitchen is, like mine. It is big, it is airy, it is roomy, enough, plenty of room for two people to be in it, and just so elegant. It just is, I just literally stood there going, well, I don't need to see much else. If this is the kitchen, I can imagine how wrong could I be? How wrong could I be? Interesting. Animate is saying, on a side note, my asthma does not only allows me to use LED lights, so I'm used to it, and everybody should use LED lights. Yes, I'm a great believer. I'm more and more, I'm changing all my lights to LEDs. And the other thing is, Animete, all through my house, I have these bars. Don't know if it'll work now because it's light, but I have these bars on the floor, so that as I walk through the house at night, these automatically light up. They're motion activated, but also they're activated by dark. Okay, I wonder if I can physically turn it on so you can see. Yep, there you go. So as I walk towards them, it will turn it on. It means I never have to turn on a light at night. If I'm going up. Yep. If I get up to go to the kitchen or to the washroom or whatever, I never have to turn on a light because I have motion detector lights throughout my house. And all I do is just charge them up once a month. And I want to tell you something. They're not cheap to buy, but I am really, really impressed with them. I also have them outside, so people walking up my driveway, they automatically come on, so you can see where the stairs are. I've got 4 stairs coming into my house, so just a good point. Anyway, so I was so impressed with the kitchen, and then I went into the living room, and it looked like a show home. I mean, I'm not joking. It didn't look like a guy had put it together at all. It was just so beautiful. Elegant, very, very put together is all I can say. And I was just stunned. I don't mind telling it. And then Dougie took me upstairs and showed me the spare bedroom, which is bigger than most people's master bedroom. And there's, the spare bathroom and everything. And then obviously, I then got to see the master bedroom. Well, I want to tell you, I stood there um, just in awe, right? I just stood there, literally. And I went, wow. This master bedroom that he has looks like a honeymoon suite from a five-star hotel. Huge room. It's the total width of the townhouse, and the bed takes up, to give you some sort of idea, about maybe just about about a third of the room. It is big enough that there is the bed is on this side, and then there's this huge vast expanse between it, and then there is he's got a beautiful lounger type chair in the corner, and then his big television. Doug's into very big televisions. But what also catches your eye is an open plan bath. With he got beautiful white drapes, netting drapes around it. But there is this island type bathtub with, he got candles on it, and the whole thing just looked like a honeymoon suite. And then, it's a beautiful vanity with two basins in it. And I want to tell you something. I just said to him, Doug, whatever you do, don't let a woman in here. Not unless you plan to marry her. I said, because literally the whole place is just like every woman's dream place to live. So pretty, so incredibly pretty. Well, that was just the start of our visit, because when we went back downstairs again, I was saying to him, I can't remember what we were talking about, but he said, I'm taking you out. I'm not going to cook for you. I'm going to take you out. So I said, oh, and I was a bit disappointed because I was looking forward to him cooking for me, because he always cooks me the greatest steak. So I said, oh, okay. But he took me to the Keg. Now, I don't know if you know about the Keg, but the Keg is like a really good steak place. It does everything else as well, but does really great steaks. And luckily for me, it also takes having a garlic allergy, which I do, very seriously, and I love that. Anyway, so I said, "Oh, okay, I can handle it." But I wasn't dressed to go out. I was dressed to go casually visit. So we went off, and we went and and I said, unfortunately, I know that it's lobster time. And, I know that they've got a lobster in from the Atlantic. So I'm not sure if they're Maine lobsters, Jeannie, just so you know. Anyway, so I said, as long as you know, if I'm going to the Keg at this time of the year, I'm going to be having, a steak with lobster. You still want to take me to the Keg? I thought it was fair to give him the truth of it. And he said, absolutely. You understand, Doug and I have birthdays this month, and they are a week apart. So his attitude was, this was part of his celebrating my birthday, and vice versa. Here's another quote. It comes from Walt Disney. And Walt Disney said, all our dreams can come true if we have the courage to pursue them. If we have the courage to pursue them. So I'm sitting there looking, at Doug across the dining room table at the Keg. And we never are short of things to talk about, and we both love politics. So we were talking quite a bit about there were midterms on, or rather primaries on Tuesday. So we were talking quite a bit about American politics, but it was just so cute. The whole meal was, we never short of stuff to talk about. We rattle on. It's a bit like having a meal with Marnie, right? We just talk our way right the way through it. And it just was such fun to be able to sit with him. And luckily he got a booth, so it was quiet enough that I could hear him. And that's also very important to me. I wanted to tell you his story because I think it's one that we all need to remember. And as I said, I did ask his permission first. Khalil Gibran said, "Trust in dreams, for in them is hidden the gate to eternity." Trust in dreams, all right? So not only dream the dream, but trust the dreams that are sent to you, as long as you know how to interpret them. I wonder how many of you do know how to interpret your dreams. To me, it's a very important thing to do. So when you look at your life, so many of us live what I call a humdrum life. You're not doing what you want to do, you're doing what you need to do to pay the bills. I understand that. I've been there. But it is funny, every now and then you'll have a dream, and hopefully every now and then you will pursue that dream. Doug came to Canada when he was, I think, just 18. The firstborn son of an African family. He comes from Kenya. Now, you have to understand that the firstborn in Africa means that he is the head of the family, right? As soon as he reaches the age of an adult in their culture, then he becomes the head of the family. And therefore, all decisions that the family make go through him. It is his job to protect the family. So it's really quite an interesting hierarchy. And what an incredible responsibility as well, because however wealthy or poor that family may be, the money will be gathered throughout the family to send the firstborn to get a good education in today's whatever reality that is. And luckily for me, the family decided to send Doug to Canada and to British Columbia to study at the one of the universities here. And I got to meet him at that time. And the reason that I did was because his local Rotary Club got to meet him and thought that he was impressive enough to send to the program that they have called the Rotary Youth Leadership Award Program, RYLA. And it was there that I met him. And so it was just amazing how he stood out amongst all the other participants. Oh, yes, Charlotte's saying 10K Doug. Yes, for those of you who don't know, one of his great claims to fame, although he would, you would never know it because unless you knew about the story, he probably wouldn't ever tell you, is that he entered a 10K race to support his company team. Apparently there was a company team that they were going to do this 10K marathon thing, or 10K relay race, and a team race, not a relay race. And just at the last minute, one of those participants had to drop out through whatever reason. And they asked Doug, a Kenyan, whether he would consider helping them. And he said, sure. He went with his runners without any training whatsoever, and did this 10K and got, I think, the highest place in the team, but also did pretty well in the big scheme of things as well. And he didn't even have the right equipment. It was just incredible. Anyway, so I got to meet him at Ryla, and I just adored him. He was sick as a dog, but he wasn't complaining about it. You just knew he was sick as a dog. And he was sitting on his own a lot because he didn't want to make other people sick. And so I went to go and sit with him. And it was so funny because he was more concerned about my getting sick. He knew I was the opening and closing speaker, and I was on the committee, and had been for, I think I was on the committee for 25 years. And, and he's so concerned that he might make me sick. I said, I am aware that I take that risk, but I just need to tell you that you look like you could do with a mother right now. And he said, yes. I said, so tell me your story. And he said, well, he explained to me he was the firstborn and had been sent to Canada to go to university here so that he could then be a business person and look after the family. And how he, within a couple of weeks, had ended up getting nominated to come to this program. So I said, you definitely need a mother. And you're a young man in a strange country and you're sick. You definitely need a mother. So right now, I want to tell you, I am your Canadian mother. Now, it was probably one of the best decisions I ever made in my life. And a lot of you know about Benji and I meeting, funny enough, at the same place. But you know, Dougie was just so amazing. And so he he just continued to impress me the whole time of the program. And soon afterwards, he realized that he was going to need to drop out of the university thing because he would never be able to afford to continue. The cost of living here in Canada is particularly high. And, you can imagine for a young man who was sent to Canada to study, to suddenly drop out would not be seen as a good thing by everybody back home who'd scrimped and saved for so long to make sure they could send him, not realizing that the cost of living in Canada would be really way beyond their imagination. However, they had a dream of their son becoming a business person, and that's why they did what they did. And talking about that, the other quote that I have is never give up on what you really want to do. The person with big dreams is more powerful. And you just want to think about somebody like Richard Branson, who had big dreams but dyslexia. And I'm pretty certain that an awful lot of people told him he was never going to make it to the big time because he had dyslexia. It was just like people make those stereotype calls. And so here was Doug with his dream of doing what he wanted to do, which was to become a successful business person. And suddenly he's now got the issue where he has to drop out. Can you imagine what that did to him psychologically? I actually don't know the story about what the family said, but I can probably imagine. And so it was a very difficult time for him. And luckily, he phoned me, and I went and had coffee with him. And I said to him, I need you to understand that life sometimes brings us these changes in plans. And I'm pretty certain you will find out 5 years from now that there's a reason why you needed to change course. And I said, I know enough about you, having seen you and met you and watched you in action, to know that what you will be successful at whatever you choose to be. And so I don't have any worries. I know you're worried right now, but I don't have any worries about you at all. And so the next thing I knew was that he told me about a dream that he had. It was his dream to bring the Kenyan Rugby Sevens football team to Canada so the Canadians could watch them play. They'd never been to Canada. And, Rugby Sevens is a very exciting game to watch. And he just had this dream of doing that. And I said, well, why don't we do that? So I said, start living the dream. What would you need to do? How would you organize it? Start thinking about your dream. And he did. And, it was amazing because not only did he bring the Kenyan team, but he even managed to bring in the top Rugby Sevens idol, a guy called Wasale Serevi. And he came from Fiji. And it's just amazing the people he managed to bring to Canada. And, he lived his dream. He made his dream come true. And I'm very pleased that I was right next to him through all of this. And, we made a great team. Why? I luckily had trained him in leadership. So all I had to do was watch him put leadership in action. I'm a great believer that leadership is not a title, right? It is an action. Leading people is an action. I believe being a leader means you bring out the best in people. And so I just was there to assist him. And I can remember that it was quite funny in places. And I don't really have time to tell you all the stories around it today, but I may continue to tell stories later on. So not only did he start visualizing this dream of his, but he went on, in terms of the Ryla program, he went on to be the head facilitator and just did remarkably well. So we knew he was destined for great things. And like Benji, I just felt a really strong bond with this young Kenyan. And he definitely did need a mom in town, and I was it. And it was, such an honor for me to be close and watch him achieve his dreams. It's said that our truest life is when we are in dreams awake. In other words, when you're living your dream, that is an awesome thing to be doing. And some of you are probably living your dream right now. And a couple of weeks ago, I talked about how the journey was the reward. All right. And that you need to understand that sometimes the dream doesn't pan out the way you want it to, but know that the journey was the reason you had the dream. Eleanor Roosevelt said, "The future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams." What is it that you dream about doing, or what is it that you dream will happen? When I say dream, daydream, always listen to your real dreams, by the way. And so it was around about this time that Doug was really getting known in, obviously, the rugby business. But unfortunately, he also was messing with a giant. The Canadian rugby people didn't like that this unknown little guy, I say little guy, but this unknown guy put together what he did and produced a rugby sevens event. I think we did 3 in a row, 3 or 4. And each time, Rugby Canada was not particularly happy with it. Why? If anybody was going to be putting on a Rugby Sevens event, they felt it should be them. And so, as you can probably imagine, David and Goliath, the unfortunate thing was that we were probably about 5 years too early when we started this. And we didn't have the money it would take to hold off the onslaught from Rugby Canada. And I can remember Doug standing in my kitchen in my previous house and saying to me, he was just leaning there with his cup of tea, he's a tea drinker, he's just leaning against the countertop like this, and he's drinking his tea, and he says to me, "Mom, what do you think I should do?" And I said, it's not for me to tell you what to do. I need to know, is it still your dream to continue doing this? Or have you done what your dream was, which is to bring the Kenyan team over? And he said, but I know that it's huge. I know the event will be huge. It just needs to gain traction. Right? And I said, okay, so what do you decide to do? And he said, I think I'm going to continue to fight them, and continue to do the event. And I said, okay, but I have a question. And it was really strange because the question that I asked him was based on what his reality was at the time. He had just bought an apartment, and he was just in a nice job as well as doing this on the side. And I said, Doug, I need to ask you a quick question. And the question is, even if you lost everything that you have now gained in following this dream, would you still want to continue? And he looked at me and he said, boy, that's a deep question. And I said, I'm your mother. Therefore, I need to ask you, are you prepared to lose everything to follow this dream? Because it may happen. And he thought for a moment and he said, yes. I said, then I'll be there with you. End of story. Yeah, didn't worry about it anymore. And I cannot tell you the number of times he's quoted that question back at me and said it was the most profound question that he has ever been asked. And he said, you are probably one of the few people that would have the courage to ask somebody that question. And I said, well, I've lived life for a little bit and I know what can happen. And I want to tell you, things went from bad to worse. I know you want to think that everything turned around and it was great, but it went from bad to worse. And eventually he did lose everything. He lost his job. He lost the Rugby Sevens event. He lost his apartment. He ended up basically on Skid Row in a one-room apartment, a one-room hotel room, basically, down on the east side of Vancouver, which was the Skid Row section. It was a really tough time. And yet, through it all, he kept himself. He never looked like that's where he was living. I think he had one suit and he probably washed the shirt time and time again. And, it was just amazing to watch him go through those months and years. And I, for one, want to tell you that I was stunned at his perseverance. But most of all, as I said, he never stopped being who he was. He kept on being the incredible visionary that I had originally met and kept on working so hard at everything. And, you're probably not surprised to hear that being who he is, every one of his creditors, when he had to, go bankrupt, he paid back every single creditor, every cent. He didn't go bankrupt and just let it be. He paid everybody back. He worked his heart out to do that. And, at the time it brought tears to my eyes that he was literally earning pennies on the dime, and yet he was paying off all his creditors. Just such an awesome young man. It was difficult on every level. I don't mind telling you. It was difficult to watch him go through it. It was so difficult to have him lose his job. And, then I watched him still continue with Rugby Sevens, even though all this was going on. And then his partner, one of his partners in Rugby Sevens, did a number on him, let's put it that way. And so he ended up with all this going on and betrayal as well. It was really tough. But the funny thing is that when you talk to him, you never heard him complain. He really lived in the moment. It is what it is. I just need to do what I need to do to get back on track. I know that every time he came to visit, because he still did, but instead of coming by car, he came on, the SkyTrain, and I drove, half an hour to go pick him up and bring him home. And it was just like so difficult. And I kept trying to load him up with food to take back with him. Um, it's difficult for me to even talk about because it was so difficult for him. But on the other hand, I knew it was something he had to go through to build him the character he needed to take the next step of his life. And so we spent very little time talking about his situation. I spent more time asking him about his dreams. So, as you know, this very proud man who paid back all his creditors had a continuing dream that he was going to be successful in business. And bit by bit, he climbed up from under. And then, cut a longer story shorter, he ended up getting an interview with the Vancouver Marathon people. And I am pleased to say that he actually had me down as a reference, and the person that was going to employ him phoned me. And some of you have heard this part of the story where I actually said to the person that was going to interview him or was considering him, I asked about their management style. And the woman said to me, "What?" And I said, "I need to know your management style before I can give you a reference on Dougie." Because he is a visionary and he doesn't understand excuses. So if you are a nitpicking type manager, if that is your management style, is to give somebody a job and then hang over their shoulder, watching to see that they do it your way, this would not be your right guy. She said, "Why? I've never had anybody interview me when I went to make this sort of call." And I said, I just need to know because I want to make sure that you're a good fit. And then I went on and I said, "Okay, fine. Here's something else I want to tell you. Just so you're warned, if you're in a board meeting or whatever it is that you're all talking about and you suddenly cut his budget, expect to see his eyes roll. But don't think he is being rude or disrespectful. His eyes will roll because he will immediately be coming up with plan B, C, D, and E with the limited budget that you just gave him." "Wow," she said. "How do you know that?" I said, "Guess who trained him?" Anyway, it turned out that he got the job. And the job was to look after the volunteers at the marathon. He, of course, did a stellar job. And at the end of the contract, which was the contract leading up to and the finalization of the marathon, they immediately asked him to stay on. And he did it a second year. And guess what? At the end of the second year, they not only wanted him to stay on, but they wanted to give him more responsibility because it's Doug. And he said that he'd be happy to take on more responsibility, but he would need more people. And he'd need a couple of days to work out how many people he would need. And, then the following year, he got us to stay on again, and this time with even more responsibility. And I think he heads up about 5 different aspects of the marathon now. He's come a long way from the guy who landed in Canada without anything. But, each time he's taking on more and more responsibility. And, now, it's just so amazing. And funny enough, somewhere in the conversation that we had together, he was talking about the homeowners association in his setup, the condo setup that he's in, or the townhouse complex, has its own board of directors, if you like, and their own committee anyway. And I said to him, "I wonder how long it'll be before you're running that show." "Oh no, I don't want to do that." I said, "No, it won't be a case of whether you want to." It's a case of you are a natural, and you will probably end up doing it. So mark my words, I'll let you know when he does that. It is said that a heart without dreams is like a bird without feathers. A heart without dreams is like a bird without feathers. You know, I often meet people who tell me how lucky Benji is or how lucky Dougie is, and I just look at them and go, "You have no idea." What? No, you think this is easy what they did. You have no idea. None. You have no idea how many times their dreams fell apart and they just were so convinced in that they were capable of more that they got back up and started again. You have no idea how many people betrayed them along the way. You have no idea the heartache they went through. But they kept believing in their dream, and so they carried on. I want to tell you one of the, my favorite stories about Benji. One of my favorite memories is sitting with him one time when things went horribly wrong for him. I think it's the only time I've ever seen Benji cry. And I just, let him have his moment. And then I said to him, have you finished feeling sorry for yourself yet? And he obviously wasn't what he expected from me. And I said, because you can waste a lot of time now feeling sorry for yourself, or you can just start again. But this time you have so much more knowledge. And I said the same thing to Dougie. Dougie, I know it feels like you've hit rock bottom, but the truth is, you've learned a lot. You've learned about teams. Not everybody can be trusted. You've learned that, people will let you down. And you've learned a lot of things that are going to help you do this better the second time around. And all the time, he's still responsible for the whole family back in Kenya. Imagine what it's like, what they must have said about him when he dropped out of the business management school. And then when he lost everything. But it's about, he just never gave up. He never gave up. So when I walked in to his place on Tuesday, the feeling I got was stunned, because in that moment I stopped and relived the moments that stood in my mind about our journey together. I remember the little 18-year-old, with a horrible head cold or flu, whatever it was that he had, and how impressed I had been with him. And then I remembered the kid that needed to drop out of uni because of financial pressure. And then I remembered, the whole of his journey. And that stunned me. And I sat with him and I just smiled with the tears literally running out of my eyes when I remembered all he had been through. And here he was in this magnificent home. I was so proud of him in that moment. But the other thing that I had to remember is that not only has he done extraordinarily well in that particular job, but because of how well he's done in it, he is now somebody that spends a lot of time traveling to other marathons because they want his input. He's like a go-to person marathon-wise, the organizational side of it. And so he gets to not only look after the Vancouver Marathon side of stuff, but he now is on other events that people wanted him to help with. So he contracts now all over the place. And the lesson here is about never letting go of that dream. But more importantly, never let go of who you are, regardless of the circumstances. Jodi's saying, what an inspirational story. Thank you for sharing. Well, I thank Dougie for letting me share it, because I did know I needed his permission to share the downs as well as the ups. People think that being successful is easy. It isn't. People think that doing well doesn't require any work. Well, it does. And it worries me for the incoming generation that is so used to instant gratification. I know that as I walked through that home, that Dougie had literally worked for every corner inch of that place. He had worked morning, noon, and night to create this reality of being a successful business person. It didn't come by chance. It didn't come because he just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And, even when he bought his previous place, I remember it beginning of what was going to be a very tough time. And then the pandemic hit, and then the relationship fell apart. And oh my gosh, so many things. And so what surprised me was that he bought again immediately. But when I saw what he bought, I understood why he did what he did. It's not easy being somebody where people have great faith in you and then you think you've let them down. I don't think I have ever felt let down by Dougie in my lifetime. Dreams are not what you see in sleep. It is the thing which doesn't let you sleep. You see, I know that Dougie dreamed his dream morning, noon, and night. And it didn't matter whether it was the Rugby Sevens or the marathon or anything else. And sure enough, 5 years after things went wrong with Rugby Sevens, he was so well established on a new path that he could see why it was all part and parcel of the journey. And I want to go back for a second, because how many of you remember the famous Will Smith slap of Chris Rock? And Denzel Washington said to Will Smith, it is at your highest peak, I think, that the devil comes for you. And I want you to think about all the highly successful actors and actresses who you didn't see how many years they spent bussing tables or, doing very menial jobs that would allow them the ability to go and audition when they needed to. All we think about is their fame and fortune. We don't think about the journey. And yet, that I think it's pretty evident to you all that most of I would say all of your A-listers, are millionaires. They don't need to work. They're multimillionaires. They don't need to work. And yet they continue to. They continue to act and be in movies just because that's what they love. I'm thinking about, if you can imagine, George Clooney does not need to act one more time. He definitely doesn't need to do any commercials. So why does he? What is it that gets him to say, okay, for this I will leave Italy or London and come and do, a 12-hour shoot. I told a story about him some time ago where he was offered multi-millions to do a particular commercial. And he talked it over with them all. And he said, I don't like what they stand for. Therefore, I'm going to have to say no. Even though the amount of money was for doing a one-day shoot. right? Multi-millions for him to appear in one commercial that he could put down in a day. And he said, I don't like who you are. Well, he didn't say that. He just didn't like their ethics. Therefore, he didn't do it. Didn't want to be associated. You see, through good and bad, if you keep who you are, your integrity, if through good and bad you can keep who you are, your caring, if who you are through thick and thin, you keep who you are, which is your open heart or whatever it is that is what you are, understand that that is what success is. And it said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. Yes, no doubt about it. But dare to dream and then decide to do, which is the other thing I want you to really think about. It wasn't by chance that Dougie became successful, or Benji. Wasn't by chance. It is what they did. They did the right things to be successful. All right? And they didn't do it thinking of the multi-millions. They did it because it is what they wanted to do. It was their passion to do whatever it was, to be successful. I can always remember thinking back to Benji and Judy and my journey with them, because I also met Benji when he was just 18. And it was strange because I always remember him calling me and saying, I'm about to go into the White House. And I said, oh, that's nice, honey. don't. It was like I laughed because I remember saying, don't take anything. Not that he would, but you understand. It's just like how many people would go to the White House, want a souvenir of having been there. And I said, take the memories. And, I always remember, Benji saying to me, you always said that if I dreamt the dream strongly enough, I could turn it into reality. And I said, yes. And he said, I always dreamed of visiting the White House, and here I am. So you look at it and go, you do understand that in every huge success, there is also huge failure. But what makes people incredible is their ability to hold on to who they are. You see, nothing happens unless you first dream. I'm thinking about how many failures has Richard Branson had? His first one was being told by his school teachers that he wouldn't really make it in anything because he was dyslexic. Nice stereotype, right? You're not perfect in their eyes, therefore you're not going to make it. Well, he showed them, didn't he? And he doesn't even run the companies, right? He just dreams the dream and creates the situation and then buys the company that he wants and then hands it over to people he trusts to do what his dream is. That is great leadership. Great leadership. He actually doesn't like being a business person, Richard Branson. He likes growing people. And he likes seeing his dreams come true. It says here that if you have a heartbeat, there is still time for your dreams. If you have a heartbeat, there is still time for your dreams. In other words, don't think that you are too young, too old, too short, too fat, too thin, too whatever to have a dream come true. No. Continue to dream your dreams because you have no idea what tomorrow may bring. And how about this one? It said, don't be afraid of the space between your dreams and reality. If you can dream it, you can also make it so. I would like to say that what is so important as well, and I'm going to quote the correct quote from Denzel Washington. He said, "At your highest moment, be careful. That's when the devil comes for you." How many of you understand that it is really important for Dougie and everybody else that's highly successful to understand that the devil is around the corner, and he will come visiting at some stage. And so being really strong on who you are, when you realize your worth is not in your bank account. How many friends did they hold on to, right, through thick and thin? How many people did they help along the way? I think that's a great measure of success, not just the bank account. I know that he worked tirelessly 24/7 to create his reality. And, most people who have a dream don't count those days. We don't know how many days he cried himself to sleep. We don't know how many times he had to defend his dream with his own family back in Kenya. You see, life is full of beauty. Notice it. Notice the bumblebee and the small child and the smiling faces. Smell the rain and feel the wind. Live your life to the fullest potential and fight for your dreams. You see, it's been a long fight for Dougie. And yet, through it all, we have laughed a lot. Through it all, we have appreciated a lot. How many of you remember that during the broadcast, when the broadcast last week, I said to you, it's really funny because when I grew up and got sick, there were two things I remember. One was being given a product called Lucozade, which is like a sort of Gatorade thing today, but a Lucozade, and the other one was Ribena. And it was so strange because he opened up his fridge to get some ice for my water bottle that I had with me, and the first thing I saw in his fridge was a bottle of Ribena. See, there are no coincidences. And I said, "I cannot believe you got Ribena in your fridge." And I said, "I was just talking about it this week, and I haven't seen it for the longest time." And he said, "Well, the next time I go to Costco, I'll pick you up a bottle." And then I thought, I wonder whether my grocery store has it. Oh, Jody's saying, "I'm just imagining the range of emotions as you were standing in Dougie's new place, remembering the journey." Oh, yeah. That is exactly why I asked for permission to tell the story, because I knew all the pain. So going back to the Ribena story, guess what? And not only that, Jody and I were talking about a product called Rose's Lime Cordial. I found that this week as well, Jody. I've lived here 40 years, nearly. I've never been able to find it. I found it this week, along with the Ribena. Now, of course, being on the food journey that I'm on, my first question is, I bet you it's loaded with sugar. It's all I can think about. How much sugar is there in there? Because, I check things now. So here we go. Per cup of Ribena, it's 50 calories. That's not too bad. However, 11% sugars. So this is called add a little bit to my water to give it that taste. And the taste is awesome. And then with the lime cordial, that's 45. So that's 5 per 30 milliliters. Hang on a second. Yep, 4% sugar as opposed to, this has got more sugar in it than this has. But you know what I thought, Jody? And I'm going to do some experiments coming up, is great addition to meals. You know, when I want to have that taste of lime and to make sauces and things with the lime juice. And because it's got those sugars in it, absolutely wonderful for barbecue stuff because it will caramelize. I'm going to be doing that pretty soon. And so can you understand that I've been there with Doug through good and bad and then back to good again. And yes, it was amazing. And I had no fear about ordering the food that I did. And I did take a picture so that you could see how absolutely gorgeous this meal was. There we go. If I turn it that way, is it better? So I had the steak, the lobster, half lobster tail, fries, you name it, I had it. And then, because they knew we were celebrating, afterwards they brought us this incredible piece of cake. That's an ice cream cake. And it had caramel and almonds, and I want to tell you, it was so good. But you know, I also had an incredible feeling of joy. And I had an incredible feeling of pride. Watching this young man who I originally met, the one with the flu, the one who didn't look like he was going to make it through the weekend. And I just thought how honored I was that this incredible young man calls me mom. I didn't want to let go of that reality either. I hope that makes sense to you guys, that to me was as important a thing to remember as the success, was that he actually calls me mom out of choice. Pretty awesome, right? I got more pictures for you that I took this week. Hang on a second. I'm not sure if that is cantaloupe, but it could be. And if it is, I forgot to mark what it was. If it is, I grew it from seed, from a cantaloupe that came into the house. So I thought you guys would like to see that. Right, this is what I wanted to show you. Hang on a second, let me get the other picture first. Come on, move. Here are my first tomatoes starting to ripen outside. And remember that my tomatoes I'm beginning to be a victim of my success. This is how many tomato seedlings grew. This funny looking thing here, that thing, is just half a tomato that I stuck down into the thing here. Look how many seeds germinated just from a store-bought tomato. Now, you understand that seeing it grow, and that tomato plant is probably now as tall as I am. And so starting this week, I'm going to be able to harvest my own tomatoes from my garden. And I've got about 5 others that are growing up, next generation going up. And that's pretty impressive. And here's the next one down. That one also was grown from seed here. I've got a really unusual plant that I bought, and I think it's called a pineapple something or other. But the pineapple part of it is just starting to grow. Can you see that? There's a stick holding it up, but it gets this incredible pineapple-like um, flower base to it. So I thought you'd like to see that. So, which brings me to another thing that happened. While I was at Dougie's, I said, I'm going to need a visit, Dougie, because I got a problem with my air conditioner. And he said, don't worry, Mum. I'll pop over and we'll fix it. The problem that I had is I think I accidentally had it on dehumidify instead of air conditioning. And that means that it was pulling moisture out of the air and maintaining it. And I suddenly thought, that's a problem. I need to empty the air conditioner of water. Then I thought, if I take the plug out, surely water is going to run all over wherever I am. So that's not a good thing. And so what I needed was Doug to come and help me, because it's heavy, to get it outside and onto the corner of my deck so I could take the little bunghole out and it could shoot water either into my carport or at the side of the house, but not in the house with my new flooring. And so I wrote to the manufacturer and said, if I remove that plug, will water come spurting out of it? Or, so that I can get the hose in and drain it. But it took a while for them to answer me. And you could tell that they've got, the first thing that they do is to ask you inane questions like, when did you buy it? And, all sorts of things. It's just a delay tactic, really. So luckily I was able to show when I bought it and got another answer, and they gave me another whole lot of stupid questions. And I said, look, stop. The only question I need answered is, if I remove that little plastic cap, am I going to get water everywhere? And they said, yes. So again, I'm going, I wonder what I should do now, because now I am beholden for a visit from Doug to help me get this air conditioner out. So then I started to think, because, I'm quite a smart cookie, and I'm going, is there any way that I can take that plug out somewhere where it would be safe to take it out? Without, I went to go and look how much lifting of it I'd have to do to get it out onto the deck. Well, there's quite a, what do you call it? Quite a height difference, as you step over the, getting into the house, and then there's a step. So then I went, okay, what about if I took it out through one of the patio doors? There's still quite a step going down, which means, I'd have to lift it and up and over that ledge and the drop. So I'm thinking that I could hurt my back that way. It's not a good idea. So then, being who I am and feeling very resourceful, I'm going, we've always got the answer. We just have to think, what is it? And I thought and thought, and then it came to me. It's about my shower. You remember that when I designed my shower, I asked them to have the minimum amount of rise on the shower floor, so that as I got older, I would not have difficulty getting into the shower. And then I thought, that is like less than an inch, or an inch at most. And I could lift that air conditioner just up an inch and into the shower, and I could take the plug out and it wouldn't matter. And I was so proud of myself, and I disconnected the aircon and I wheeled it very carefully all through the house. I didn't want water slopping everywhere. All through the house. And I took it and lifted it up and into the shower. And then I smiled, because I went, Good move. I then took out the little bung plug and it went. I thought, well, that was pretty anticlimactic. Is that all? What, I got the hose in, but very little came out, and I thought that's unfortunate. Then I'm going, there must be another plug in there somewhere. And when in doubt, read the instructions, right? And sure enough, there's another plug. It's right at the bottom. Extremely well hidden and camouflaged, but I found it. And then I thought, well, this is going to be the big one, right? So I'm going to take that out and I'm going to get water. Maybe hardly any water came out. And I left it for over an hour and it was just, a couple of drips, really. I think maybe I got a cup of water out of it, which is probably quite okay. And so my questions were, why did I need to do that? I think part of me needed to learn how to deal with this air conditioner. See, I don't believe there's a coincidence. But I did have great fun taking a picture of the air conditioner in the shower and saying to Dougie, I solved the problem. And he just wrote back and said, I'm so proud of you. But, sometimes we have to sort of think outside the box, right? Hi, Jenny. Jenny's saying, my dreams are I want to travel more. What's stopping you? So, this is the whole thing. Let me talk about your dreams. What dreams do you have at the moment? And would you be prepared to lose all the things you have right now in order to follow that dream? Right. You want a place that's more beautiful. Like, for instance, where, Jenny? Because unless you can visualize the where, you're probably not going to go there. And more beautiful, what does beautiful look like to you? You see, for some people, beautiful is a beautiful white beach with, turquoise sea. And for other people, beautiful is the mountains and stuff. Maybe have warm weather. Yes. So are you thinking a beach with the sun shining down on you? Where are you that you have cold weather? Where are you now, Jenny? I want to tell you, if you have the ability to travel, travel is pretty cheap these days by comparison. Why? Because everybody's trying to recover from the pandemic time. So I think it's an ideal time to travel if you have the ability. You're in Vancouver. Hasn't the weather been hot enough for you, Jenny? Just so you guys know, we've had extraordinarily hot weather recently. I want to tell you that when I first came to Canada, I couldn't understand why anybody lived here because of the weather. Now I love the weather. I love the rain. I love the fact that it doesn't snow very much. I love so much about the weather. So where would you choose to go? Jenny, I think that's the important thing is to know. And how would you like to get there? How many of you would like to get onto a boat and sail to a beach somewhere? To maybe do a cruise to a not a Mediterranean, yes, maybe even a Mediterranean, but maybe cruise to Hawaii for a week. A wonderful way to get somewhere. Of course, some of you want to fly and spend the time on the beach rather than getting there. But it is amazing how many people live in Vancouver out of choice. And there's a reason why it's called the Pacific Northwest area, right? But I love it here. I didn't think I would, but I do. I love the weather here. I love the fact that we got 4 very distinct seasons. You know that it's winter, or you know that it's spring. Mind you, spring took a long time coming this year. So, Ginny, what is stopping you from traveling? Because you're not the only one. What is my dream? At the moment, I have so many of them, Ginny. Yeah, I am a dream person, right? At the moment, I'm uh, dreaming about setting everything up for this collection to go on the internet. And it's amazing how much work it takes. I think I added up the hours and realized that since July the 24th, I think it was, or 28th, one of that, I have put in a regular working week in terms of hours. um, and more so. I think I put in 7 working days, no, normal working days. And that has made me laugh because it's out of choice, not out of I have to get up and do this. It's a case of I choose to do this. Why? Because I love what I'm creating. And so when you look at it, sometimes you need to look at your dreams. I look at one of my dreams, Ginny, is to be able to grow my own peppers and stuff inside during the winter. And so now, as you can see, I'm working in the fact that come September, late September, the temperatures will start coming down, and I'll be able to put this collection of stuff that I'm growing back into the greenhouse window. I can't put it there at the moment because it gets too hot. I can cook in there. It gets so hot at the moment. All right, so you're saying from July 25th to August the 1st, you traveled with your family. All right, where did you go? I think travel of any sort is a really good for the soul. Wow, you went to Quebec and Toronto. What an incredible journey. What an incredible journey. And so, yeah, did you find sunshine? Did you find what you were looking for? And if not, where will you be going next? You see, I'm a great believer that it's important to know what you're heading for. I know part of why I am doing this stuff is because I realize with the economy as it is, I may need to supplement my income to be able to maintain my quality of life. And I was showing Dougie, what I've been up to, and he just smiled and said, "You are such a rare human being." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Everybody else is complaining about the fact that the pensions are not keeping up with the reality of uh, the cost of living. And here you are going, how can I supplement my pension?" He said, and I'm going, well, I think that's my responsibility. There has to be a way that I can do this and not. And what I found was, I was totally obsessed with it. I was doing it sort of nonstop, and I went, wait a minute, this is okay now, but what happens when it starts being under pressure? Do I really want this? And and I was, how much time did I spend building the ultimate spreadsheet that shows me, what goals I have and how to hit them and all sorts of things. Hours and hours of work just creating that so I can make sure I'm on track. And then I realized maybe it isn't a coincidence. Maybe what I needed to do in some level was to be more creative, but also to use my mind more on problem solving and doing things. And I was quite shocked, stunned even, that my ability to manipulate the spreadsheet, and to make it do things, if this goes in there, it will change color and do this, that, and the. I was amazed. Jeannie's saying, one of my dreams was to beautify our front yard of our rebuilt home. In 1.5 days, the landscapers did it, including putting 2 lilac bushes and 2 azaleas. Dream done. Absolutely. And not only that, you were able to pay for it how? I dreamt for the longest time about getting my shed re-roofed because it was leaking. And I'm pleased to tell you that I think the guy has finished it today while I'm doing the broadcast. So, it's just like, okay, roof done. However, how many of you understand that in creating these beautiful things, I have needed to spend money, all right, to buy supplies, to do things. And Jeannie, I want to really thank you for the order because I wanted to let you know that I know there is a huge difference between what I imagine things need to happen and what the reality is, all right? And you can't buy experience, right? You have to earn experience. And so I was really delighted that my first order for the cards came from you in the US because it required that I think about things like customs declaration forms from Canada here, and about, can I send these as just a large envelope rather than a small package. And the difference is substantial. If I had to send it as a small package, the mailing cost would be, can't remember now, quite substantial, like $26 or something to send it as a small parcel. And I said, I think that it is thin enough and I think it is, compact enough that I can send it as a regular envelope. And all it has inside is paper. It doesn't have a product that is normal. It has a paper product. And, paper is an interesting thing to send. So the funny thing was that I decided to take a trip up to my local post office. And I met Sue there, and I said, okay, Sue, luckily it was really quiet. I said, I need a bit of help here. And I explained to her, this is my test run. Did I do everything right? Because if I've done everything right, I will be able to mail this in my local mailbox. I will not even have to go to the mailbox. I just need to buy the right postage stamps. And, it was so funny because she did all the calculations and she said, you're 100% right. This is thin enough to go as letterpost. And because of that, you don't need, and it's paper inside, it's cards, it's paper. You don't need a customs form. Isn't that amazing? So just by being able to do that test run, Jeannie, thank you so much. I got to find out that I can now create these little parcels and just mail them in my community mailbox. Yay. All I will need is the right postage. So I will be doing, I'm waiting for an order to come in from overseas so I can confirm that cost in reality as opposed to what I think. And then also, actually, I could have just asked while I was there, now that I think about it, but I didn't. But you understand, it's the difference between what you imagine the cost will be and what reality is. I was definitely not wanting to send it as a small parcel because why would anybody want to spend $26 on just mailing the thing? No, I don't think so. So to me, all this time and effort, is it worth it? Right? My question was, for the amount, this is not a product, that's what I call a high profit margin. In fact, it's a paying hobby in a way, but even when it pays, it's not really paying for the time that it takes. But what I love about it is it uses my brain so much. Right? I'm constantly solving problems, and I like that. I believe from the bottom of my heart, all right? I believe in the bottom of my heart that this is good for me to be back and doing things and solving problems and so forth. And so one of the things I talked about last week, and this is another sort of uh, bonus, if you like, from Confetti Corner, known as my craft room. You know that I got these. I think I told you I got these new mats, and it were made cutting, especially things like the houses, a lot easier. A clean new mat. However, what I found out was I was still having blade problems, and Jody remembers that. So I wanted to share another story with you, which I think is really important. Um, what I asked myself was, what if I did two passes over the design, not just one? In other words, that I get the cutting machine to go over the pattern twice. And the reason why was because I was having problems with the blade depth and everything else, and I was changing blades too often. Now, I don't know about you, but I had to ask myself, why am I not doing two passes? Because I'm quite smart. So if this is the shape of the house, which it isn't, but if this were, then you understand going over the first time is fine because it'll do all the lines and then it'll do all the bits. But what if you go over a second time? And my logic said there is no way that that machine is going to go exactly over the same point as it did the first time. Do you understand what I'm saying? The second time, it's bound to be a little bit off. So that's why I never did two passes on these very intricate things. And then, because I know this is all about learning, I went, remember what the monk told you: breathe, smile, and go slowly. So I went, well, why don't I breathe, smile, and try it? So I did. I told the machine, do two passes on the next, I think I was doing the deer. Now, doing two passes over this intricate pattern means it's going to take even longer. But the interesting thing was it cut it so beautifully that when I pulled it off the mat, I had next to no weeding to do. So what I lost in time on the cutting, I made up for in the weeding. So, and sometimes life is a bit like that, right? Sometimes you need to do things once or twice. Sometimes once is not enough. And then the other thing I noticed was that, let's say the deer takes 18 minutes for it to cut. Well, I find that I do other things while that is working. And then I thought, what happens if I load up a double sheet? Because I have one, right? Which is this size. So that I can put one piece of paper there and a second one here, and I can just get it to cut the whole thing. Well, maybe I should call Confetti Corner the what if corner. So then, of course, I did that experiment and it worked the second time. The first time, I didn't have the second starting point in quite the right place, but it worked the second time. And so now what is the difference? And this is what I want you to think about. The difference is once I set the cutter going, I don't have to touch it again for now over half an hour. Except I need to be there because every now and then something will go wrong because that's life. but it gives me much more time to be doing other things in the craft room while I'm waiting for the cut to finish. So, you look at it and you go, everything in life has a purpose and a reason. Everything in life, if you're going to follow a dream, requires that you accept failure as well as you accept success. And, failure is in the eye of the person who sees it. You see, I've never seen failure as a bad thing. Yes, Jodi's saying you're learning all kinds of tips and tricks as you go along. It's great. And that's why I do it, all right? I do it because I am constantly pushing my own knowledge base. I now know, I mean, it blows me away. I now know how to manipulate designs that I didn't know before. I now know that if something is not cutting 100% right, to look at the actual pattern that I have and whether it's a mistake on the pattern rather than just me. And you can get in there and you can blow up the pattern. And, maybe that line just doesn't connect properly. All right. Jodi's saying you don't settle, and that's serving you well. It is interesting. Remember last week I was talking about that I had found something that removes the glue, because every now and then, you're going to end up with glue where you don't want it. And you imagine you've done all this work to get it to this point, and then you notice there's a piece of glue in here. Well, hello. That's waste of half an hour. But I managed to find something that fixed that. How about this one? How many of you love the glitter card, all right? Now, what I found was none of the regular glue really adheres well to glitter. So it would look good today, but when I picked it up tomorrow, it would come apart at the side or whatever. Now, that's not good enough. So what am I going to do? And what I did was spend another day just playing, trying to work out what have I got? Because 9 times out of 10, I've already got what I need. What have I got that will be strong enough to hold that together? And I went, I may have to use Gorilla Glue. You all know what Gorilla Glue is? And there's only one way to find out, is to risk one of these cards, all right? Risk messing up one of those cards to do the test. And so I thought, no, I don't have to do that. What I'll do is I'll get some offcuts of glitter and stuff and try and stick things to it using a different glue. Any of you ever half break a nail and you're going, I need to stick that back together? I want to tell you, Gorilla Glue is the best thing I found. I've got clear Gorilla Glue now, but this, literally, I fixed this nail using Gorilla Glue. It had broken all the way to half across my nail. Now, it isn't pretty like this, okay? But it has held for over a month. Showers, washing up, you name it. And this one application has lasted for that long. All right, I know it will happen again. So the next time I will try the clear, because then I went, yeah, that works, but I don't like the color that it is. And I went, do they make a different color? And sure enough, they do. They make a clear one. And then I thought, hey, if it's strong enough to hold my nail, it's going to be strong enough to hold that card together. But I won't know that to be true until I try it. And I'm delighted to say that it's solid all the way around. So yeah, but do you understand? I have to be prepared to fail in order to get success. And I think that's what we're missing a lot of. We're not teaching people to dream and to work hard for the dream. People expect the dream to come without any effort. People want to dream and not do anything to achieve it. You see, to me, if I don't do anything, nothing's going to happen. If I don't get people going to the website. I'm not going to get people liking the cards. Makes sense. And so, I look at it and go, it is interesting that I thought I was enjoying retirement, which I am. And then I create a new business. Really? Why would I do that? Well, there's only so much binge watching that you can do that feels healthy. So better that I do something with my time now. And then I noticed I went the other way. I was so compulsive about doing it. I was getting up early in the morning and working until all the way through 12 hours straight and so more. And I just went, it's insane. I need to find balance. So now I'm teaching myself to learn to get up and do stuff creatively. As Jeannie says, it's the creative side of me. To me, you can probably imagine when I finished one of those cards, when I finished one, only I know how much work that took. Only I know how many test runs did I need to do to get that. And just because it worked today, does it mean it's going to work tomorrow? Absolutely not. But only I know the time and effort. Jody always talks about that. Nobody knows how much time it takes to be a broadcaster, right? All you see is the time I'm standing here. You don't see the prep time, you don't see the majority of the failures that go on. I went to go and sign on today, and guess what? My computer didn't want to charge up properly. I didn't want to connect properly. And I'm going, oh, that's nice. I got half an hour to go. Luckily, I have a system that has me getting ready to broadcast half an hour before I need to. So I've got time to have a mistake happen. I have time to reboot if I need to or do whatever, right? It's part of my process. You see, I don't expect things to go right all the time. All right, so Ginny's saying, I achieved citizenship test. First tried, and I got 14 out of 20, which is a fail. And the second time, I got 16 out of 20, which is pass. Good for you, Ginny. Welcome to Canada. I want to tell you, I didn't even have to do the test, Ginny. Did you know that? It was an amazing story. I didn't know it, but I came to Canada 30 years ago. And I went to go and renew my landed immigrant thing. And the woman looked at me and said, you've been here for a long time. And I said, yes. And she said, why have you not become a citizen? You're obviously here to stay. So why have you not become a citizen? And I sort of hedged because I didn't really want to tell the truth on that one. And she said, at your age, you do not have to take the test. I said, what? She said, at your age, you don't have to take the exam that Ginny's talking about. I said, where do I get the papers then? Because that was exactly the reason why I'd never become a Canadian. I didn't want to sit that exam. I hate exams. Why would I do that to myself? And then, of course, what happened was, you have to fill in reams and reams of official documents, to become a citizen. And I had to get hold of Yvonne, who loves, she's got a mind for nitpicking little things. And I literally had her sit with me and help me fill in these forms because I have an absolute fear of filling in official forms. I spent some time in a police state where if you made a mistake, they could throw you in jail. All right, Jeannie, bye-bye, and charge your battery first next time. Well done. But thank you for being here, Jeannie. Appreciate it. So you understand that all these things that we do, I never really imagined actually even becoming a Canadian. And yet I have to say that it was one of the most meaningful things in my life. And I think everybody, if you've never been to a citizenship ceremony of any country, go to one. It is amazing the amount of emotion in the room. And, changing your citizenship isn't a small thing, right? It's a big thing. A big thing. And I had some fear. I was a Brit changing my citizenship to Canadian. I had some fear about that, not being a Brit anymore. It was my heritage. So why? And then, I look at it now and go, why did I wait so long? You know? But, it's amazing, isn't it? You see, if you don't have a dream, how are you going to have a dream come true? So, Ginny, you can dream about finding the warm weather and a beach, or you can plan it. And you can plan it and work on it and save the money and do it. And it isn't about, oh, I haven't got the money. It's about, okay, how are you going to do that? How did I become a citizen? The same as you did. The only difference was because I was already over 50, I didn't have to take the exam. They just had, that I'd been a landed immigrant for 20 years was enough for them. And then, and I was a property owner and had been for some time. And, all the things that they look for, I already had, and I didn't, and apparently after 50, you don't necessarily have to take the exam. There are other ways you qualify. And so, I was very happy. And it was wonderful. I had, family and not family, but I had friends there to see me become a citizen. They all said they'd never been to a citizenship thing, but they are so glad they took the time to come because it was so meaningful. And I went, yeah, watching somebody achieve a dream is a very meaningful thing. And so you understand the feeling that I had about this week was one of, I feel honored. When I stood in Doug's place, his beautiful place, and he was asking me questions about what to do with his backyard or whatever, and he kept saying things like, you have such good taste. How would you do this? And I went, wow. And I looked at him and I said, Dougie, I look at your place and have to tell you, your taste is so much better than mine. What I have is some experience. That's different. So, I've had an interesting week of feelings, but I never forgot that it wasn't easy. I never presumed for a second that Doug's journey was easy, because it wasn't. And when I talk to him about it, it's so easy to forget how hard he fought for what he's got. It's, so many people will just say, isn't he lucky that he's that successful? No, there is no luck in that. This is, he had a dream and he worked morning, noon, and night to achieve it. And he had great patience and great courage and great determination. And he had at least one person who believed in him. We know that. And so I look at some of you and go, yeah, Jody's saying hard work isn't luck. How many people ask me during my time as a professional speaker, oh, you're so lucky that you get to do this and make so much money, right? It's always about the money for them. And I'm going, yeah, right. And how do I get to do that? I said, try doing it for 20 years. What? So try doing it 20 years. Try going and failing. I can remember speeches where it bombed and I ended up not earning anything. And it bombed because they gave me the wrong information at the briefing and I took it to be true. And I ended up not getting paid because of the wrong information they gave me. But these things happen. You see, you cannot possibly succeed without some level of failure. And so I look at Jody. Jody got cancer and beat it, and then got lymphedema. And you look at it and go, you understand life isn't just about the good stuff. It's, can you cope with the bad stuff? And my concern today is that I'm not sure that we are teaching our young people adversity. I think we're teaching them, you want an iPad or an iPhone, you get it next week for nothing. I give it to you. And when you get old enough to drive, I will give you a car. You're not going to have to earn it. You're not going to have to, do that. You're just going to get it. And by the way, what we're building is a generation of very entitled people. You see, they now believe that they're entitled to it. Why? Because all their friends are getting it. So I'm entitled to one as well. But life isn't like that. When I look at the successful people I know for a fact that they have struggled. All right? I know for a fact that for every success they've had an equal failure. And I look at things like Will Smith, who in a heartbeat completely damaged his reputation and people's view of him while he was protecting his wife. But in that moment, the devil did come for him, because whoever knew that Will Smith had that level of anger inside him, and the true Will was shown. And so, you look at it and go, does that make him a bad person? I think what happened was we all bought into his ideal picture as opposed to his real picture. And the reason that we do that with people is because they never show us the reality. They never show us the other side. They work very hard to protect it. Let me tell you what freedom is, just so you're clear. Freedom is when you have somebody who loves you just as you are, good and bad. That is the greatest freedom you can think of. You don't have to be on good behavior for them to like you. You don't have to have your makeup on for them to think you're gorgeous. You don't have to do so many things. You just need to be who you are, because what they love is who you are. That bit you cannot hide, regardless of success or failure. And I want you to know that that is what it's all about. How long did I dream dreams about things before I turned them into reality? Yeah, years in the making. And do I know whatever I'm dreaming is going to work for me? Not necessarily. What I do know is that every goal I have ever pursued has taught me things that I needed to know when another more important goal came to play. All right? And so, I'm of the opinion that it is really important to be a lifelong learner. What I realized was that, making this card, you can imagine how much time it takes, right? I think we talked about the number of different pieces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Printing it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 different bits of, and the base card. 17 bits to put it together. Cutting it, can you imagine just cutting it is a mental nightmare. Trying to work out how many of this color do I need? Do I have enough? And then putting it together so it actually closes up beautifully and looks right. And then making sure that when it's open, it looks good too. All right. Why would I make cards like that? They're so difficult. You know, I'm going, why don't I just make easy ones? Well, there's a reason why, isn't there? The same way as I remember people saying to me, why do they pay you so much to speak? And I said, they pay you for the things you can't see. Public speaking is the most feared profession. And because so many people are fearful of it, they pay me a lot of money to do it. It's a fact. If everybody could do it, they wouldn't pay me what they pay me. And that's what I realized was, how many times has Yvonne said to me, I wish I could do what you do. And I said, oh, you could, you just need to do it. And she's going, no, that's not true. And, you know, for example, I can open up a packet of store-bought cake mix and make a really nice looking cake. She said, I can't. When she does it, it doesn't work like that. And I said, isn't that interesting? Or, you know, when I try a recipe, as you know, I don't measure. You know, I just want to get the idea. How do you do this? And I don't mind failure at all. What amazes me is I very rarely have a failure. Touch wood, I don't have one tonight. But, you know, it's like I very rarely get hung up on the perfect thing. It's about I want to have fun doing it. And so can you imagine all the test runs I've done? You know, it's nice to know exactly how long it takes to cut cards. And what I found out is get smart. Get smart, which is one day, one card. Keep cutting. You know, don't keep changing the paper weight, the weight of the paper, because you need different blade settings. Just work on one card a day and and cut plenty of them, like 6 or so. All right, and then the next day pick another design and cut that one. It's amazing the difference it makes in time. And then, you know, what about the experiment about doing 2 up at the same time? Well, you know, if it goes wrong, you lost 2, not 1. And that happens. But when it works, it saves a lot of time. And so I look at all of this and go, what is your dream that you've been dreaming but haven't been working hard at? You just expect the dream to come true. Huh. It would be like being captured in the war and in a concentration camp and dreaming of being free, but not bothering to dig the tunnel. You know, it's like, hello. And in every dream, there is risk. Absolutely. And you need to be strong enough mentally to be prepared to fail, maybe a couple of times. But it doesn't mean you won't get the dream to come true. It means it just takes longer than you thought. And so hold on to your dreams. I'm a very patient person. I didn't realize that. But apparently I am a very patient person. What I do is I dream big dreams and then I wait, scheme, dream, rescheme, test, do whatever, and eventually the dream came true. So to me, it is don't be in a rush. Remember what the monk said. Smile, breathe, and go slowly. But if you had to go to court tomorrow to prove that you wanted your dream to come true, would you be able to give enough evidence to prove it? I love that idea. I have kept timesheets to show that this is how much time I spent making the dream come true. I have a full set of accounts already for everything that I've bought to make this dream come true. I also know exactly how long it will take in terms of sales before I break even. You see, I've done all that due diligence. But I do know the only way that it will succeed if I do the right things. And doing the right things requires that I spend money. Doing the right things requires that I relook at certain aspects of my life and go, you need extra time to do this. So what are you going to let go of? Binge watching. And then I realize if I'm smart enough, I don't have a television in my um, confetti corner, right? That's the one place I don't have a television. And then I went, you don't need a television anymore. Just bring your tablet. You can binge watch on your tablet while you are weeding. You can't do it while you're cutting because cutting makes no big noise. So, I'm going, I can have it all. I just need to reorganize things in a different way. And by the way, it doesn't really matter what's showing when you are busy weeding. As long as you can basically hear what's going on, you don't have to watch every moment of it. Just get the idea of what's going on, and that's good enough. So I can multitask. And I am learning to get balance back. I got back onto Billy the Bike this week. I'm learning to do that. I went out, and you will hear on Sunday about my disaster when I went out. But it's all about I am building balance back. Now that I've got the brunt of the problem sorted, I can now start getting my balance back. This is DearMamaSal saying, dream good dreams. Dream good dreams. And then work your heart out to achieve them. Don't wait for the universe to just bring it. Work at making it a reality. It'll come a lot faster. This is DearMamaSal saying, thank you for being here, and thank you, Doug. If you ever happen to hear about this, thank you for giving me permission to share the story. I knew it would be inspirational for some people, and I know that I stood in that new house of his and just was in awe of what he had done and how proud he must be of himself. And yet such a humble young man. This is DearMamaSal saying, all right, so Isabel's saying, thank you. You are not only patient, but you are a motivator. I will have to listen to Doug's story. Oh, yeah. Don't cry. Bring the Kleenex when you hear the story. So all that I'm saying is don't give up on your dreams. Don't stop having dreams just because you're look at me. I'm going to be 75. I'm starting a new business at 75. I mean, hello. But there's something about it that tells me I need to do this. It's good for my health. I'm going, how can it possibly be good for my health? We'll find out. This is DearMamaSal saying, hold on to the dreams as Doug did. Remember that in every dream there is great failure as well as great success, so be prepared to stay who you are through the failures. And also, remember when you're back at success who your friends were when you were not successful. They're the ones that you definitely want to hold on to. The others are pretend friends, and you will get pretend friends if you're successful. It's the ones that stay with you through it all that you want to really nurture. This is DearMamaSal saying, you can do this if you're prepared to work for it. We'll see you tonight. Bye-bye for now. Thanks, Jody.